All right, welcome back to the exciting study of 2Samuel. It is 2Samuel. Today we're going to be taking a look at chapter 20. And so let's jump right in. 2Samuel 20 verse 1 says, "And there happened to be there a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tent, so Israel." So first thing we're told here is that he was a son of, that he was a man of Belial. Belial means, it's number 1100 in the Hebrew, in the Strong's version, the Hebrew, Strong's lexicon of the Hebrew, rather. And it means without profit, worthless. So he was a man of worthlessness. He was without profit. His name was Sheba. Sheba means seven, and also can speak to an oath. Because that's how oaths were done. They were repeated 7 times, and they had 7 aspects to them. But anyways, Sheba, speak to 7 or oath. And then we have Bichri. Bichri means youthful. It's from Bakar. And it's interesting. The word Bakar means to burst the womb. It means to cause to bear early fruit. And of course we've been going through this, and we've been looking at hints and clues that gives us illumination concerning the end times and the end time prophecies. And there's some in this chapter as well. Verse 2 goes on to say, "And so every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri, but the men of Yahudah clave unto their king from Yarden even unto Jerusalem." Okay, now first of all, just as a little reminder, in chapter 19, at the end of 19, we had this little feud or dispute or debate, concerning nation, the 10 tribes, the northern 10 tribes of Israel and Yahudah, and the nation of Yahudah, and them bringing back the king, and they were going back and forth, and said that the words of Yahudah were fiercer than the words of Israel. And so that's where it ended in chapter 19, but we see that wasn't the end. Here in chapter 20, it says there happened to be there, during that time, a man of Belial, a worthless cat, one that was without profit. And his name was Sheba, and he speaks to 7 or to an oath. He's the son of Bichri, and he blew a trumpet, and said, "We have no part in David." So you have a little backdrop as to what's going on. Okay, now I thought it was very interesting that he was the son of Bichri, and Bichri comes from a root which means to burst the womb, which means to cause to bear early fruit. I found that particularly interesting because the end time prophecies also speak of a time when fruit will come early. But let's see what Scripture teaches that that a son or a child that comes early, what is likened unto. Job 3:16 tells us, it says, "Or as in hidden untimely birth I had not been," and this is Job, cursing the day that he was born. And he goes on in verse 16, it says, "Or as in hidden untimely birth I had not been as infants which never saw light." And then again, we have a second witness to the scriptural significance of an untimely birth. Psalms 58:8 says, "As a snail which melteth, let every one of them pass away like the untimely birth of a woman, that they may not see the sun." So here it is. We see that an untimely birth speaks to one that was born too early, and never got a chance to see light. So this is what an untimely birth represents one who comes out yet in the darkness, never sees light. Now, the end time prophecies also speak of a time when untimely birth or the fruit will bust the womb, in before time. It's found out in Revelation 6, verses 12 through 17. Let me have my first reader read Revelation 6, verses 12 through 17.
And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great man, and the rich man, and the chief captains, and the mighty man, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?
Okay, so here it is. We see that the end time prophecies also speak of a time when the untimely fruit, will come forth, and speaking of when the stars of heaven will fall into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs. This coincides with the Messiah, who will say, learn the parable of a fig tree. When it begins to sprout forth, when it, as well as all the trees, begin to sprout forth, then you know the time is nigh. Speaking of the end times, okay? So, this is speaking of that time. There's also another passage that bears witness to this time as well, when these untimely figs will fall upon the earth. And it's found in Yeshayahu 34, 1 through 8. My next reader, please.
Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of Yahuwah is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their host shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Edomia, or Edom, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. The sword of Yahuwah is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of kidneys of rams. For Yahuwah hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Edomia. And the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls. And their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For it is the day of Yahuwah's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion.
Hallelujah. So again, it's speaking of the untimely fruit. The untimely fruit, as we see with the untimely that's born, speaks to being in darkness. And we see both in Revelation as well as in Yeshayahu 34. It speaks to the day of wrath, the day of Yah's wrath, which is a day that is in the dark. It's very dark. And hence we see in verse 12, it says, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black. If the sun is black, it's dark out, right? Mm-hmm. Black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became blood. So heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. Every mountain and island were moved out of their places. So it's a dark time, you know. And we see the same thing in Yeshayahu 34:4, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. You know, it's going to be a dark time. And it will be the day of Yahuwah's vengeance. It's not going to be nothing nice. All right. Let me have my next reader read 2 Samuel 23-7.
And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them inward, and fed them, but went not in unto them. So they were shut up until the day of their death, living in widowhood. And the king went forth in all his household after him.
Verse 4.
Then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, now shall Sheba, the son of Basharai, do us more harm than did Absalom. Take thou the Lord's servants and pursue after him, lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men and the Cherethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba, the son of Basharai.
Okay. So, we have our timing centered around the day of Yah's wrath. And here it is, it says David came to his house at Jerusalem. So, this is when the beloved one of Israel, as well as the beloved one of Yahuwah, comes back to Jerusalem, i.e. our Messiah coming back, amen. It says, and the king took 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house. You know, these 10 women could possibly speak to 10 northern tribes, you know, who was left to keep the house, but were defiled, we'll say. And said they were put in word and fed, but he went not unto them. They were living in widowhood. You know, so that means they were living without a husband. You know, so that means they were no longer the bride. Amen. Did you catch that?
Yep.
You know, okay. Now, some may not remember where these 10 came from. Well, in 2 Samuel 15:16, when the king left, when he initially left Jerusalem, you know, which would speak to our Messiah when he left Jerusalem. Amen. You know, and he left the house in the care of Israel, of those 10. You know, and when we see the Messiah, he actually left them in the care of the 11, because Judas was gone. You know, but it says, and the king went forth in all his household after him, and the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. Now, so these are the same 10. But how did they become defiled? We see that in 2 Samuel 16:22. It says, so they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and Absalom went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. And that's going to happen. You know, the spiritual fulfillment of that is also going to happen. You know, and you have all of Israel, you know, they're going to accept Absalom, and he's going to go into them in the sight of everyone. You know, and that's not going to be a good thing. You know, and in the end, they'll be living in widowhood. They will not be the bride. They will not, you know, the king will not go in unto them. Not going to be a good thing, right? So, verse 4 said, you know, then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Yahudah within 3 days. You know, because here it is, we had this guy, Amasa. Let's see. We had this guy, Amasa, the son of Belial. You know, he done called all of Israel together with him. You know, and he's planning on going, you know, eventually he's going to probably go up against our king. You know, and that's not going to be good. So the king foresees this. So he says to Amasa, assemble me the men of Yahudah within 3 days. Now, I thought this was particularly interesting because Amasa was the guy that Absalom, his son, made general. And here it is, when they come back, you know, King David makes Amasa general over all the host of Israel. Now, Amasa name means burden. You know, and so you can see the ones who carried the burden, you know, was made head over all the host of Israel. You know, and so said he told them to assemble the men of Yahudah within 3 days. Now, if we look at this spiritually speaking, you know, maybe those 3 days are almost up. And guess what? The men of Yahudah are still not assembled. So, but it tells us that he went to assemble the men of Yahudah, but he tarried longer than the set time and that had appointed. And so David said to Abishai. Now, Abishai means gifted of the Father. You know, and he told him, now, Sheba, the son of Bichri, do us more harm than did Absalom. You know, he's gonna cause much more harm. So take thy Adonai, thy Lord's servants, and pursue after him, lest he get him to fenced cities and escape us. And so here it is, Abishai, he takes the army and he goes after him. And verse 7 tells us, and there went out after him Joab's men. You know, and Joab was undoubtedly with him. You know, but Joab had been demoted. You have seen that, right? He's been demoted. Amasa has taken his place. So, after Abishai goes out, Joab's man, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba the son of Bichri. You know, so here it is. Sheba the son of Bichri is being represented as those who have covenanted, and they are the sons of those who have came from the untimely birth, you know, or the untimely fig tree that has shaken its figs, and we already seen the symbolism of that. So let's pick it up with verse 8. My next reader is 2 Samuel 20 verses 8 through 13.
When they were at the great stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before them, and Joab's garment that he had put on was girded unto him, and upon it a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins, and the sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, Art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard that with the right hand to kiss him. But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. So he smote him therewith in the fifth rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again, and he died. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Bichri, and one of Joab's men stood by him, and said that the favorite Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field, and cast a cloth upon him. When he saw that every one that came by him stood still, when he was removed out of the highway, all the people went after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri.
Okay. Joab was quite a character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he was quite a character. You know, here it is, he goes and meets Amasa, you know, and he, you know, grabs him by the beard, you know, as if to kiss him, you know, right after asking him, you know, was he in good health, knowing he's about to take his health from him, you know, and he stabs him and kills him. And he only strikes him once. So here it is, the guy is rolling around on the ground, bleeding to death, and he's supposed to be the captain of the host of Yah's army. You know, and Joab just leaves him there, just bleeding to death in the middle of the road. And everybody who goes by just stops. You know, they can't believe it. You know, this is the captain of the host. You know, he's laying there, you know, and he's just dying, you know, and no one's doing nothing. And so finally, you know, they pull him off the side of the road into the field and cover him up, so that people can't see him, and then everyone goes on following him. You know, this is, you know, undoubtedly, you know, a tale of mutiny. You know, and what I gather from it is that it's going to be a real mess in the end times. You know, this is going to be a real mess. You know, we've seen Yah's people in the enemy's camp, and we see, you know, the enemy in Yah's camp. It's going to be hard to tell who's who. The wheat and the tares, you know, they're going to be looking just alike. You know, so we're going to have to really be on top of our square. We're going to have to really hold the scripture and filter everything through it. Amen.
Hallelujah.
You know, verses 14 through 16 goes on to saying, he went through the tribes of Israel unto Abel and to Beth-Maacah and all the Berites, and they were gathered together and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth-Maacah, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench, and all the people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, say, I pray you, unto Joab. Come near, hither, that I may speak with thee. You know, so let's take a look at some of these terms. We have Abel, which means mourning. We have Beth-Maacah, which means a house of oppression or pressure. We have Berites, which means those are the well. And we have where they actually catch up with Sheba at Abel of Beth-Maacah. You know, so the mourning of the house of oppression or pressure. So here it is with the spiritual picture. We see him going through all the tribes of Israel, you know, and they get to where there's mourning. You know, there's mourning, you know, and it's the house of oppression. It's the house of pressure or the house of persecution. You know, and so here it is, get to this place in Israel where there's mourning and a great house of persecution, house of oppression. You know, and it says, and all the Berites, and they were gathered together and went also after them. So here it is, speaking of these folks that come from the well. You know, and the thing that comes to mind is, you know, when Yeshua say, you know, out of their bellies will flow wells of living water. You know, and of course the prophecy in Isaiah where the well just grows and grows and grows, you know, becoming a great river and giving thirst to all Yah's people. And here it is, it speaks of the Berites, those are the well, following after the host of Israel, you know, to get the bad guy, so to speak. And they besieged him in the morning of the house of oppression. And so here it is, this wise woman come out of the city, and she asked to speak with Joab. And let's pick it up with verses 17 through 22. My next reader, please.
And when he was come near,
Push it to turn green.
And when he was come near, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. Then she said unto him, Hear the worth of thine handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. Then she spake, saying, They were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely ask counsel of Abel. And so they ended the matter. I am one of them that are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Thou seekest to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of Yahuwah? And Joab answered and said, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. The matter is not so, but a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, hath lifted up his hand and against the king. Hath lifted up his hand against the king, even against David, deliver him only. And I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. Then the woman went unto all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab. And he blew a trumpet, and they retired from the city, every man to his tent, and Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king.
Okay. Well, here it is, this wise woman. She was kind of violent, but she was wise. It says, when he came unto her, she said, Art thou Joab? He answered, I am he. She said, Hear the words of thine handmaid. You know, and she spake, saying, they used to speak in old times, saying, they should surely ask counsel at Abel. And so they ended the matter. This is a place where we get things done, where solutions are come forth. You know, you don't have to tear up our city and kill us. You know, let us know what the problem is. And so Joab says, far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. I don't want to destroy nobody. It's just this guy. He's from Mount Ephraim. His name is Sheba. He's the son of Bichri. You know, he's lifted up his hand against the king. We need him. And the woman said, just hold on. Behold, his head shall be thrown over the wall. You know, how come you just couldn't bring it out to him? I had to throw it over the wall, you know. So she went to the women, she went to the people in all her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab, threw it over the wall. Hey, that's the way they did it back there. You know, no, we're not gonna bring you the head, we're gonna throw it over the wall. You know, verses 23 through 26.
Now Joab was over all the hosts of Israel, and Benai, the son of Yahodai, was over the Kerethites and over the Pelethites, and Adoram was over the tribute, and Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was recorder, and Sheba was scribe, and Zadok and Abithar were the priests. And Ira, also the Urite, was chief ruler of David, a ruler about David.
Hallelujah. Okay. Now this is just kind of like stood out like a sore thumb to me. It just, you know, it's like a big rematch to me, you know, a hint like something going on here. It just out of the blue, you just started, you know, coming out, you know, and telling us who's who. Now Joab was over all the hosts of Israel, you know, and Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the Kerethites and Pelethites and so on and so forth. You know, let's take a look at some of these intermediate of these names. You know, Joab, Yah's father, Israel, speak to men wrestling with good and evil, but overcoming by holding on to Elohim. Benaniah, Yah is built up. Yahoiada, Yah knows, or Yah is known, they're known of Yah, Kerethites, covenanted or bodyguards or executioners, or covenanted bodyguards or executioners. You know, it comes from a root which means covenanted. You know, they were cutters, you know, which meant spoke to cutting a covenant. And they also cut folks down, so it spoke to them to being bodyguards or executioners. You know, then we had the Pelethites, which spoke to official messengers, and Adoram, which meant double majesty, you know, i.e. their double glory or royal power. Then we have Yehoshaphat. I mean, Yah is judge, or Yah have judged, or Yah will judge, or Yah is judging, etc., etc. Then we have Akilu, which means a brother born or begotten. And then we have Sheba. Now Sheba was interesting because it appears that Sheba was not the original spelling of his name, you know, but it was actually Sheyah, you know, and it wasn't until the Masoretes, you know, when they put together the Masorah, the Masoretic text, that they changed it to Sheva. You know, so originally it was Sheyah, and which means lofty and or prideful. Then we have Zadok, which means righteous or righteousness, and then we have Abiathar, father of excellence. Then we have Era, which means watchful of a city or awake, and we have Yerite, the Yairite, which means speaks to an enlightenment. And that's pretty much it. You know, so I took the liberty of actually taking these definitions and inserting them into the text. You know, and it was pretty interesting how it reads. You know, it says, now Yahuwah is the Father. Now Yahuwah is Father. Now Yahuwah is Father with all the hosts of men who wrestle with good and evil and prevail by holding on to El. And Yah has built up the son of those who knows among the covenanted bodyguards or executioners and among the official messengers. And their royal power was over the forced labor. And Yah will, or Yah has judged the son of a brother born or begotten to mark, and the lofty or prideful, which was scored with a mark. And righteousness and the father of excellence were the priests, and those awake and watchful of a city, yea, the enlighteners, they were of chief rulers about David. Now, in doing this, you know, the purple is where I inserted the definitions of the names, you know, and the bold black are just alternate translations of the word that was there. You know, just like forced labor was translated as tribute in your King James, you know, but it literally means forced labor. And to mark was translated as recorder, which literally means to mark. You know, and scored with a mark was scribe, which literally means scored with a mark. You know, so when you consider this and you consider the end time prophecies, you know, you can see a lot of parallels. You know, you can see the Yahuwah being the father over all of Israel, who truly wrestles with good and evil, but prevails by holding on to him. You can see him building them up and then establishing them, you know, and he's known among those who have covenanted with the Messiah, that becomes the bodyguards and executioners and the official messengers, and they use their royal power, you know, over on the forced labor. And we know that Yah will judge those who were born or begotten to the mark, or to those who was marked, and the lofty and prideful who was scored with the mark, who take the mark of the beast. You know, and those of us who are actually awake. Anybody awake? Yeah. Those who are actually awake and watchful of a city, even Jerusalem and New Jerusalem, yea, the enlighteners, they will be the chief rulers. about David, about the beloved, in the end. And Revelations 20 verses 4 through 6 speak to that. It says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of Elohim, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Mashiach 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And so we see the priest here, being righteousness and the fathers of excellence, and we see those who were awake and watchful of the city, enlighteners, trying to bring light to those that was in the darkness. They're ruling and reigning with King David, even as we see here in Revelations 20. So it's going to be quite a time. It's going to be quite a time, when these things come to pass, and it's passages such as this that gives us insight into what's going to take place in these end times. Yes, we have Revelations, but Revelations gives you enough. It gives you the skeleton, so to speak. And the other passages of Scripture that coincides with it gives you the meat, put the meat and the flesh on the bones. So that it can really come to life and you can really see how it's going to be. So that's all I have for you today. I pray that it was a blessing unto you.